Hey, how do you do? Welcome to this review of Transport Fever 2. The big question is it worth the price? As it is with all games, we all like different things, and different things appeal to us. So if you're uncertain whether or not Transport Fever 2 is for you after watching this video, be sure to look up some other videos online, maybe from some other people like Colonel Failure, Skystorm, etc., or you can watch some of my videos, which is linked in the description below. Now, the reason why you're all here, I would imagine, is because you're uncertain whether or not you want to buy Transport Fever 2, if it's a game for you. And my personal opinion is yes. Yes, it's worth it. I've logged about 170 hours in the game so far, and I've had it for 2.5 weeks. So that's about every hour I've had to sit in front of a screen playing games has gone to Transport Fever. So I'd say yes. If you already know what Transport Fever is, you can go ahead and skip ahead to the timestamp up above, or for those of you unfamiliar with the series and of the game, here's a quick little rundown. So, Transport Fever 2 is the third installment in the, I suppose, the Fever series from Urban Games. And, first we had Transport Fever, then we had Transport Fever 1, and now Transport Fever 2. Transport Fever 2 is, in short, a Transport Tycoon game, much in the same niche as Locomotion, Transport Tycoon, Railroad Tycoon, Transport Giant, TERAIN, or Airport CEO, same airport. All of them Tycoon games, and all of these are also circle around transportation. Now, if you're new to the genre, I would recommend testing out OpenTTD, which is free, open source, and still being worked on by eager volunteers, so you can just Google that and you'll find the game right away. And if you enjoy that game, then Transport Fever 2 is a modern take on that same genre. And it lets you play through about 150 years of transportation history, from horse-drawn carriages to high-speed trains to cargo or passenger jets, and various different flotation devices, also known as ships. Now, what the challenge is in this game for you depends on your playstyle. Whether you are a tycoon who wants to make a huge empire bringing in boatloads of cash every month, or if you like to have a playground, a sandbox scenario where you can just set up your different intricate networks of transportation, making it work optimized, making it run smoothly, and it's all up to you. Now let's start with the cons here. The optimization of the game, the game runs decent enough on my computer. You can see the specs in the description below. But loading up the game takes way too long. It feels like it takes 5, 10, 15 minutes just to load in your save game, which to me is a little bit much because it digs out the precious time you have to sit in front of the computer playing your games, relaxing, doing your thing. But it might just be me. Maybe I'm just too impatient. I don't know. But once you finally get into the game, for those who are familiar with Transport Fever 1, once you get into the game, you don't have the same jerkiness, and you don't have to scroll around the map in order to make it run smooth. So for what it's worth, there's been improvements, but we could still improve a little further. Managing your ever-growing fleet of vehicles is getting a bit tedious in Transport Fever 2. What is really sad about it is they had perfectly functional mechanics for this in Transport Fever 1, in my opinion. Like, the auto replace feature has been removed, or at least I can't find it, and I just can't understand why. It worked perfectly, now it's gone. And when you have vehicles which last for 15 to 58 years in-game, that means you have to replace quite a few vehicles manually, whether that's by doing it vehicle by vehicle or line by line. And even replacing them line by line is a bit tedious because you have to click on so many windows in order to get to replacing the right vehicles. Adding to lacking features in Transport Fever 2, which was there in Transport Fever 1, is setting your vehicles on a line. If you buy a bunch of vehicles and you forgot to set the line first, you have to go out of the vehicle management, you have to go into the line tool, then you have to make the line, then go back into the depot where you find your vehicles that you bought, then set them on the line. In Transport Fever 1, you could just set them on make new line and make the line as you went on, which was so much easier, so much more convenient because it doesn't add challenge to the game. It just adds unnecessary work. Transfer Fever 2 kind of has realism built into the core of the game, and I feel like when you sell a vehicle, it should go back to the depot. Instead, what it does in Transfer Fever 2 is it just, Scotty, beam me up, and the train disappears, and all of a sudden, money appears in your bank account. What's that about? You had in Transfer Fever 1, the train, the truck, whatever, would go back to the depot, or the hangar, or the harbor, and get sold there, and then you'd get your money. I feel like that was a much more realistic way of doing it, and that kind of kept the immersion of realism. I get that you're playing this from a god kind of perspective, looking down, just toying around with your tools. I get that, but still, it's based upon realism. Let's keep it real. Now, this one is a bit of a nitpicky kind of thing, but borrowing and repaying money in Transfer Fever 2, although easy to do, is still a little bit tedious because, well, early game it's fine because you have a roof of 10 million to borrow, and you can pay or take out 500,000 in loans per click. So that's 20 clicks in order to get to 10 million. Now, late game, you can borrow 100 million, and that's 200 clicks in order to max out or bottom out your loan. So why don't we just have a repay all, take all, maybe have various different increments, or you can input how much you want of the loan or something like that? It just feels like it could have been tweaked a little bit. Would have helped a lot. Now we're getting kind of close to the positive notes now. So I'm going to throw in a subjective opinion, and that is goods. Goods in Transfer Fever 2 have been radically changed from what they were in Transfer Fever 1, and not how you do it, not the way you do it, or anything like that. You had to have a couple of industry changes, which are no longer, but that's fine. What I have an issue with is the limitation of two goods, or two types of goods, per city, one for industry and one for commercial. Now, if I have a city, let's call it New York, and it only wants goods and construction materials, that kind of breaks the immersion a little bit for me. Because I feel like that city should also need fuel, it should need food, tools, machines, it should need all of it. And why limit it? I don't get it, but I'm coming at this from a Tycoon kind of perspective, while some are coming at it from a more sandbox kind of perspective. And as far as sandbox go, I get it, because it kind of forces the player to make a longer lines, longer connections in order to connect up a city and a industry. But let me transport all of it. I want to transport all the goods to one city, and then all the goods to another city, and then all the goods to the third city, because that's like every city needs everything. That's the way it goes. Obviously, apart from intermediary products, but finished products every city should need. Now, the last one on the cons list, which might as well have been a pro, is emissions. And the reason why I put it as a con is because I feel like it needs a little bit of adjustment. And that might very well happen in an upcoming update, who knows. But emissions, as it is right now, feels like it has too little impact on the game. If we take the extremes of the lowest emission level vehicle and the highest emission level vehicle, the gap there feels too small, and it feels like you should have had less emitting vehicles than the ones you have, and you should have had more emitting vehicles than the ones you have on each side. So all in all, it feels like a very good idea, very good feature, because it adds a little complexity and it adds a little optimization you can do when you get towards the end game and you have boatloads of cash and you don't know what to do with it. This would be something you could do with it. But right now, it just feels like it needs a little bit of tinkering before it actually has an impact on anything. At least as far as I see it. Now, moving on to the reasons why I think that Transfer Fever 2 is totally worth the money. Graphics-wise, the game looks amazing. You can compare it to any other Tycoon game out there, and it would at least be on par with it, if not better. And that is not to say that there aren't more detailed graphics in other games, like let's say Planet Coaster or Planet Zoo, but they have a much smaller playground, much smaller playground. In my Let's Play series, I have 60 kilometers of track laid out, and I have barely touched half the map. And adding to that, the maps look amazing. They've been updated, look completely different from what they did before. You have updated vehicles, also the old ones, which just look even more stunning now than before. They look powerful and realistic. And then you have the cities, which have been updated, looks so much better than they did before. And at least the people look better than they did. We have a little ways to go there, but all in all, it's a visually superbly pleasing experience. In Transport Fever 1, and even more so in Terrain Fever, you had a lot of terrain alignment collision, which is kind of an annoyance more than anything. But in Transport Fever 2, it feels like it's gone. I haven't noticed it at all in my 170 hours. And I've tried putting airports smack down right next to a mountainside with, the mountain just being cut in half. And it doesn't terrain alignment collision at all. Same goes with the tracks as well. You can snap them together much easier than before. You can have all sorts of crazy weird junctions now, which is awesome. But you kind of could do that in Transport Fever 1 as well, but not to this level. Now, possibly the biggest of the new features is the map editor, which is so well implemented. You can either do every individual part yourself, putting down everything from trees to hills to rivers, lakes, whatever yourself, or you can have the map generator or the game kind of generate it for you and then just fill in the blanks. And then you can do the same with the cities, you can do the same with the industries, you can do the same with the main connections between the cities and industries and whatnot. And if you feel like starting it to get like the baseline down, you can do that and then let the game kind of finish up your touches. Like you can connect city A to city B and then have the game kind of auto-generate a main connection to city C as well. Or you can do it all by yourself. It's all up to you. It's very responsive, effective, and intuitive. It's very easy to use, which is a big plus, especially when you have so much control over what you can do and how you can do it, as you can with the map editor. Major kudos to Urban Games for making it so intuitive. However, there is a kind of a caveat here. If you don't have a powerful system, be careful with the size of adjustments you make at once. Personally, it was fine. It just lagged a little bit, but I would imagine it's quite taxing on the system if you have a lower end computer. But possibly on the other side, if you have a powerful computer, you might be just fine just doing whatever at once. Now, obviously, with most of my videos so far having been on all the vehicles that are in Transport Fever 2, it's hard to get away from that talking point here as well. Now, we got a ton of new vehicles in the game. We got the Asian vehicle set, we got the freight planes, we got specialized trucks, and we got new ships as well, which means that we got a ton of new vehicles, but we didn't get all too many for the American and the European train sets, at least not as far as I could see. So I want a stellar flirt. But other than that, obviously, we have the modding community have already started putting out vehicle mods out there. We have the class 37 and 47 already out there, at least that I saw. And, as the game releases, we'll probably see a ton of more mods being added. And with the mods, you can easily fulfill your heart's desire as far as vehicles go. And I do feel that Transport Fever 2 definitely has enough new vehicles to warrant its own release. It's much more than just a DLC vehicle-wise. And adding all the other features as well, I feel like it is definitely its own game. Now, one beautiful addition to the game, which hands down exclusively positive is station modding. You can now modify your stations depending on what kind of need you have. You can have the connections to various different places. You can add and remove platforms and tracks and all the things you really want to do with your stations. You can do it. You can have one-way entrances and exits on your truck stops so that you don't get these weird loops in the middle. And all in all, it just feels like that was a very good addition. One thing they could have added to it, especially for the trains part, is to add some kind of measurement for how long the station gets when you add portions to it, because your train could be 500 meters long, but you have no way of knowing that you've added 500 meters of platform without actually pulling out a new station, lying it right next to it, and kind of measuring it depending on the station that is already there and how long the new station would have been compared to it. So this is a small little tweak I hope they'll add at some point, or that some mod can add. But all in all, station modding is brilliant, and it really helps optimizing your system. It helps you individualize it, make everything unique and feel like your own. And all in all, it's just a brilliant addition. Now, I've chosen to list the price here as a positive, as I find the price tag quite reasonable. It's currently sitting at $35.99 on Steam with a 10% pre-order discount. And you get an additional 15% if you already own Transport Fever 1, bring it down to $30.50. And to me, that is just mind-blowing, because I can spend hundreds of hours in this game having great fun. And if I spend $30, $40, depending on when I buy it, or whether or not I own Transport Fever 1, that is fine for 100 hours of fun. And the game feels like a good upgrade to the first one. For those who already own Transport Fever 1, it feels like a great upgrade, because you have the Asian vehicle set, you got the new freight planes, you got new ships, you got specialized trucks, you got a couple of new trains also for the European and the American train sets. You have all the new overlays in the game, quite a few actually, and they're quite handy. You have better urban development and better urban mechanics, like things interact better. You have station modifications, map editor. All these things are new, and tons more that I've just forgotten about in the heat of the moment. But it's so much new. It's so much that it's improved. Graphics, visually stunning experience. So my heart warmed. Thumbs up for the game. And I hope you enjoy it if you get it. And if you don't, or if you're still on the fence, be sure to check out more videos on it as well. I give this one, personally, I would give this game about 9/10 awesome. And the reason why is listed in, I mean, these are my opinions. They're all subjective. Obviously, it's impossible to make it objective 100% anyways. And we all have different tastes, so be sure to make up your own mind. Don't just take my word for it. But I personally find it absolutely awesome, and I absolutely recommend it at the strongest.